The message arrived at 11:07 a.m., right between two back-to-back pitch calls. Margot never texted, always emails. But this came short, style deliberate. Reina, we'd like to invite you to a family dinner, a celebration, a moment to reconnect. Love always, Mom. Love always. That phrase had the scent of premeditated mercy. Exactly 32 minutes later, Lyra forwarded it with a cheerful, "So excited to see you." Red heart. She never used emojis. Not with me. Then Franklin left a voicemail, a rarity in itself. Be on time. No delays. That was when I knew it wasn't a dinner. It was a staging. I chose a fitted gray coat, low-heeled boots, and a soft navy dress. Nothing loud. Nothing inviting. My phone was fully charged, its lens clean. I checked the record app thrice before slipping it into my coat pocket. No perfume. I wasn't there to impress. I was there to document. You know it's not love when it has an itinerary, I whispered to the mirror before leaving. It was a sharp winter night in New Jersey. The restaurant they picked was upscale, with gold-plated menus and soft jazz barely humming in the background. Candlelight flickered across our faces like we were performing under soft spotlights. Lyra greeted me with a hug, just a second too long. Just tight enough for the camera on her phone, angled and already recording, to capture my fake smile. Wine glasses were filled. I hadn't ordered. No one asked. It was already done. Margot opened with a speech about alignment and restoration. Her voice glided over her words like silk over a dagger. This family thrives when everyone is in the right place, she said. And sometimes love means letting go. Franklin sat in his usual silence, swirling whiskey in a crystal glass like it held deeper truths. His nod was his signature. Approval. Finality. Then came the envelope. It was placed delicately before me, like a peace offering. Inside, a check for $5,000 and a one-way ticket to Montana. A fresh start, Margot said, smiling like she'd solved a humanitarian crisis. Lyra clapped. She actually clapped. Still recording. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared at the check until the numbers stopped dancing. Margot leaned forward. You'll have space there. Time. We even arranged temporary housing. I ran my thumb along the edge of the paper. It was crisp, clean, unused like their empathy. I'm touched, I said, but my hand on the table had tightened just enough for her to notice. She paused, adjusted her blouse. A signal. She knew I knew. The air thickened. Margot dabbed invisible tears, but I wasn't watching her eyes. I was watching Lyra's hands. Still, unshaking, dry. They didn't twitch, didn't tremble. This wasn't emotion. It was performance. You were always the wild one, Reina, Margot whispered. So brilliant. So misaligned. Franklin chuckled under his breath. Clever, sure, but never useful. I didn't respond. I filed the sentence away. Then, my phone screen lit up from inside my coat pocket. I caught the alert's glow. Forbes. TerraSense patent sold for $9.5 million. I flipped it down instantly, but Lyra had seen it. For a flicker of a moment, her eyes narrowed, not with curiosity but calculation. Then the door opened. Grandma Bernice, uninvited. She wore her signature blue beret and walked in with a cane and the kind of authority only age can gift. She saw me first. Oh, there's my little spark plug, she beamed, kissing my cheek. Then she turned to Lyra. I saw your old thesis the other day. Still remember that mess with the plagiarism inquiry at Yale. What a year. The table froze. Lyra's fingers finally moved, tightening into a fist. Franklin shifted in his seat. Margot's lips went pale. No one spoke. Bernice blinked, confused, then shrugged and asked for a glass of Merlot. The spell was broken. Wine tipped over. Lyra's glass. It shattered. Red spilled like accusation across the white tablecloth. Franklin leaned in, voice low, razor sharp. Don't come back unless you become someone worth the family name. I stood, folded the check, slipped it into my coat. You'll never have to worry about me tarnishing it again. My chair didn't creak. My heels didn't echo. I buttoned my coat, slowly. They watched, waiting for drama. I gave them silence. They handed me silence and shame. I handed them their own performance, reflected back. Fresno smelled like soil and sweat. It clung to my boots and coated my lungs. Spring had rolled in thick with pollen and pressure. I arrived at the field site with fresh batteries and fresher hope. TerraSense was finally going live. For once, I felt in control. The sun cut low across the rows of test crops, and I clipped the sensors into place one by one. My team, half students, half volunteers, gathered near the portable workstation. Data began flowing, numbers crawling across my screen like veins on a leaf. It looked good. For 15 minutes. Then, the readings spiked. Soil moisture values inverted. Irrigation kicked on during a dry sequence, flooding the rows. I tried to override manually, too late. Half the test bed was soaked. The farm owner stormed across the mud, cursing tech, students, and whatever else gave him license to scream. I explained. I even showed logs. My team, who had pushed for the early launch, were gone. Phones off. Ghosted. An email came later. They were refocusing resources. I drove back to campus in silence, gravel rattling under my tires like a judgment. My dorm was dim. I boxed the sensors like I was burying a body. Sometimes rock bottom isn't a moment. It's a season. On campus, the fallout spread faster than the irrigation leak. I became the girl who ruined the trial. Whispers followed me into lecture halls. Cafeteria trays cleared around me. One article on a student blog called me overhyped. Then came Jenna Hale. She stopped me after class, bright-eyed and syrup-sweet. I believe in you, she said. You just need space to recover. Her arms wrapped me in the kind of hug that usually comes with an agenda. 2 weeks later, I found out what it was. The Student Grant Committee published their shortlist. Jenna Hale. Proposal. AgriPulse 2.0. I opened the PDF. The diagrams. The sequence logic. The compression model, mine. She'd tweaked the language, flattened the visuals, but it was TerraSense dressed in thrift store disguise. When I confronted her, she didn't flinch. It was inspired, she said. Besides, it's just tech, right? Just tech. I walked out before I said something regrettable. Dr. Theo March met me in his cluttered office later that week. The air smelled like solder and old leather. You didn't protect it, he said, eyes unreadable behind smudged glasses. If they can copy you, you haven't built it right yet. I didn't reply. I just nodded. That night, I picked up my phone. Called Margot. She answered. Hi, Mom, I said, soft as breath. Click. She hung up. No words. No hesitation. That sound looped in my head until dawn. I opened an old file. Rewrote everything. 6 weeks passed in code and silence. I barely slept. I didn't eat unless it beeped. My roommate moved out. I didn't notice. The new TerraSense ran cleaner. It learned. Neural predictors replaced static models. Compression algorithms optimized per square foot. I submitted the file to AgriCore. Blind entry. No name. And then I wrote an email to my family. Subject, in case you ever wonder. The cursor blinked. Waited. They wouldn't understand it anyway. Delete. AgriCore reached out on a Thursday. Private offer. Sealed deal. Back-end licensing. $8.5 million. I signed with hands that barely trembled. Bought a used Subaru the next day. Packed my things. Left the dorm key on the desk. Didn't tell anyone. Except Dr. March. He looked at me. Said about time. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence signed in ink. Chicago. Heat hung heavy that morning. Even inside the glass-encased corner office I now called mine. The press release had gone out less than 12 hours ago. Agricor officially listing me as the lead patent holder behind TerraSense. By sunrise, my inbox was a parade of congratulations. And then the coal bins. First, a message from Margot. So proud of you, sweetheart. We always knew you had it in you. An hour later, Franklin, let's talk logistics. You wouldn't be where you are without some foundational support, you know. Then Lyra, with a heart emoji and a note, we're overdue for a family check-in, don't you think? The masks dropped quickly. Margot followed up with, would be fair to offer some family percentage out of moral alignment. Franklin, think of it as returning the favor. I stared at my screen, the unread messages glowing like symptoms. Across from me, Celia Crane, Agricor Counsel, watched. Do you have crisis training? She asked, eyes sharp over her coffee. You'll need it. I let out the smallest laugh. Dry. Controlled. Would you open the door again if the people who shut you out suddenly wanted a seat at your table? Franklin didn't wait for permission. Within days, he started telling anyone who'd listen, his neighbor, old business contacts, alumni from his Rotary Club, that he funded my research, helped me get started. He even filed a formal claim with a state arbitrator, attached emails cherry-picked to imply his $200 birthday gift 3 years ago was seed capital. My lawyer nearly choked on her sandwich reading it. Embarrassingly sloppy, she muttered. But remember, false claims don't need to be true to go viral. The internet didn't care about accuracy. Lyra began posting cryptic quotes on her story. Don't forget who held your hand before the world clapped. Margot left me a voice memo, sniffling, dramatic pauses in all the right places. We're not asking for everything, just acknowledgement. A little piece of what you've become. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled receipts, code commits, timestamp video demos, bank records, backed everything up on 2 drives. This wasn't fear, it was protocol. Then came Lyra's final performance. She published a personal essay in Modern Woman today titled The Sister Who Left Me Behind. Claimed I abandoned our family for wealth. Cast herself as the emotional backbone of the Colburn house. It went viral for an hour, until students from her graduate program surfaced archived video. Lyra laughing with a group of friends, mocking my project, mimicking my stutter from childhood. Another thread unearthed Grandma Bernice's comment on plagiarism. The internet flipped. Her university announced a review of her conduct. Her speaking engagements vanished within 72 hours. Franklin called her on speaker, while I listened from the recording Celia had pulled legally. You've embarrassed this family, he growled. You were supposed to be the respectable one. Lyra sobbed. I didn't feel vindicated. Just empty. Ever watch someone build their whole life on a lie and then trip over it? I had the $5,000 check they gave me that night at the restaurant. Still crisp, untouched. I framed it under museum-grade glass and sent it via courier to their New Jersey address. I added a single note. Payment returned. Debt closed. They received it during their annual summer block party. Neighbors watched. Phones recorded. Franklin's expression didn't move, but Margot's face cracked like sugar glass under heat. By week's end, Franklin lost a pending investment deal after due diligence revealed he'd falsely claimed ties to TerraSense. One sponsor dropped him mid-negotiation. Margot stopped attending her charity boards. Her book club disbanded quietly. I never said a word. Instead, I stepped onto a stage in downtown Chicago. My first keynote, The Cost of Silence. Full house. Applause that came not from fame, but clarity. Later, I stood in the bathroom of my office, staring at that check, hung above the bin like a ghost. This was never about money, I whispered. It was about naming the wound. That week, I signed legal documents voluntarily severing all financial ties to the Colbins. No court order, just will. Celia skimmed the file, eyebrows raised. Most people fight for scraps, she said. You walked away from the whole table. I shrugged. I built my own. But peace doesn't come from winning. It comes from choosing what you refuse to carry anymore.